Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Farmer, and I'm looking forward to sharing today's industry expert with you. And I have to tell you, I am really excited today because we're talking about something that I really feel is very timely as we're ending the year and starting the new year. And well, to be honest, it's timely all the time and something that not everybody talks about. But today we're going to be talking about the customer experience. And how does that tie into your profits and your bottom line? We're going to share all about it today because we have an expert today that this is really what she does, who she is, and she walks the walk and not just talk the talk. So let me share a little bit about her. So Danielle Woolley is passionate about creating great experiences. She believes that there is always one more idea, connection, or strategy that could take any experience and make it better. That's how More Better Business was created. She combines her expert skills and passions with her knack for simplifying complex businesses to create awesome customer experiences. And as a trusted customer experience strategist, she helps businesses increase their profits by improving customer satisfaction rates, growing customer loyalty, and increasing visibility through aligned collaborations. So I have to tell you, I'm so happy to have you here today, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a long time coming, and it's been great following your journey with the podcast even, because every time that you have a podcast, I feel like I'm in the conversation with you guys. So I'm excited.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. That's very heartfelt. I appreciate it. And for those of you out there, Danielle is also one of our columnists for the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine. So, man, if you haven't already read her articles, you're going to want to really dive into that because I got to tell you, she is somebody who really knows how to collaborate. She's got networking nailed and how to do it right. And she really is going to talk a little bit today about how you can really pull the things you believe in and what your heartfelt causes are and how you can actually pull that into your marketing as well. So we're going to dive right in because we have a lot to talk about today. So Danielle, let's just start first with a little bit about your journey. I've known you for quite a while, and I have seen you really working to pull all these things that you're so passionate about and what you're an expert at and how to pull them together in knowing exactly how you want to serve. And so I've seen you do it where you just pull so many other people together. And I really feel like 2022 is your year. And I'm super excited about what you're doing. So how did you get there? Tell us a little bit about the story of the struggle.
Sure. So as you know, I'm very transparent and I maybe overshare my struggles sometime, but I feel like that's very important, especially if people are out there building businesses, building communities, and just really trying to live their life. I always want to be transparent with stuff. So when I first started out in the world, it was out of desperation of being involved in so many things. I was looking for distractions, looking for things that I can contribute and control. And for me, that was working. So ever since I was a teenager, I always had multiple jobs. I was always volunteering. And to other people, they were always confused as what is she doing? And I feel like, I still get it today. What is she doing? First one day she's working in business administration, then she's working in customer service, and then she's running volunteer things. It might have taken me 20 something years to get there, but all of those little pieces of the things that I've done is what brought me here. And when I really sit back and reflect, especially as I'm planning for 2022, it's all come back to wanting to make a difference, but also showing that there's more value out there than just selling stuff. So trying to marry those two worlds together.
Which I think is really important too, because, we both come from the networking space, and it is how we have built our business with networking properly, right? I always say you really have to know how to network responsibly and as well as really building it with collaboration. So I think that when you know how to do those things or you learn, it's a skill. Like, I always laugh when people say, oh, you're a natural networker. I don't know if that's actually really true. I think I'm naturally a people person, but I don't know if naturally a networker. It is a skill. And so if it is something that someone out there is listening to this and they're like, you know what, that's just not my skill, you can make it your skill. You can learn. You may never 100%. Be this effervescent, going to be the person that everybody looks at in the middle of the room. That may not be you. But it doesn't mean you can't make an impact or a difference. And it doesn't mean you can't collaborate with people who have a strength where maybe you do not. That's the power of networking and collaboration. So how would you say that for you, as you were going through this journey right now that you've been through to really land where you are, what is the role and how pivotal was it, this role in this networking and collaboration that you have always been so good at? How has that impacted what you're doing now?
That has actually been a big proponent of the decisions I've been making over the last few years of the direction of my business, because I also work full-time as a customer success consultant as well. So for a while, like I said, I was really great at doing all the different things. But then at the end of the day, when I felt like I wasn't fully feeling like I was making a difference, it was because I was seeing so many missed opportunities for connection. So going back to the networking question, is I would go to these events and, old school business coaches would say, just get out there, get your name out there, don't leave until you've given out 10 business cards. And I know how you feel on this topic. Even just saying it out loud makes me cringe. But my thing was, you know what? I'm going just to see who's there. How can I help? Who can I connect with? There's a reason that there's going to be a certain person there at that time. And I removed the pressure of having to go and fulfill a quota. And I know there's some people who don't agree with me. They see networking as like one of their number one strategies, and they go in to leave with at least X number of clients. But for me, it's to listen to people. So that's been a biggest takeaway. Is I used to go and talk and talk and talk. Once I started pivoting into just listening, what are people asking for? I started observing the interactions of other people, and I would see this incredible business with this really awesome product, but they did not have the right mindset when it came to networking, and they were just trying to push their sale. And I would just sit there and observe and say, oh, I wish I could help you. I wish I could help you. I know how amazing you are. I know how amazing your company or product or service is, but you are just turning people off left and right. And once people realize it's a human connection and not just a numbers game, networking can just open up so many doors.
I love that, because I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking that networking is sales, and they're really not anything the same. And I think one of the things that I got really clear on early that made networking work for me is that I always approached every single event that I went to, virtual, in person, networking meeting, whatever it was, is showing up to serve first. And so I always kind of took an inventory of what can I do to serve somebody else? Is it having them be on my podcast, writing for my magazine, introducing them to somebody else that maybe could help move the needle in their business? And so asking questions, because people love to talk about themselves, right? Asking them questions and gathering information helped me to know how to serve them. And once you did, really honestly, sometimes those people came back and wanted to hear about what you do, and it was reciprocity at its best. But sometimes it didn't, because I think that the mistake that sometimes people make is thinking that I do this for you and then you do this for me. And that's not exactly how it works, right? You have to just put it out there, serve, not sell. It will come back, but it might not come back in that exact person that was the one that you had the initial conversation with. And so I think that when you take that pressure, like what you said, off and think about really honestly, it's really learning, listening, and then becoming a resource for other people. I always say, when people say, oh, Patty, what do you do? I really always want to say, I would really rather share with you who I am, at my core, which is that I'm a people connector. That is really who I am. I mean, yes, I do all these things. We all do things, right? But I don't really think the litany of, oh, I'm a this, a this, a this, a this is really what allows people to see who you are. And I think that is one of your greatest gifts, is not only that you do it for you so well, but you do it for others. When you're talking about others, I think other people probably think, oh, wow, I never thought of myself that way or whatever. But you have this unique gift because you do listen in really seeing and shining the spotlight on them. So to me, it is just a natural for me for you to just move and be able to see that in value-based customer experiences. And if this is what it would do in networking, and this is what it could do in collaboration, what if you could take that same mindset and apply that to the customer experience, which really then is kind of sort of leads to sales, right? So it's just a different thing. So let's talk about that.
Exactly. So, and I'm getting excited just listening to you talk. I have like 400 stories I want to tell, but I'll just stick to one. So that is also how causes came in. So before we jump to the customer experience, is at these same events, I would see people trying to choose between, oh, let me dedicate time to this charity, or let me invest in this particular business for my, to grow my business or for my own personal life. And I just couldn't understand why people weren't trying to collaborate together and do those things. So the causes part came in with, let me connect this nonprofit. So for example, I work a lot in cat rescue. I also volunteer with an organization called Light to Earth Sanctuary. And you can dedicate time to a cause, but when you strategically plant that in with the business, you actually are helping to impact one another. So rather than saying, I need people to help support my cause, or I need money, it's, well, hold on, how can you guys share the same community values? Because you both want to do the same thing at the end of the day. You want to do something better in the world, whether you're a business or not. And you want to do things smarter. So why should one organization be busting their butt to do something when you guys can collaborate together and share the same audience and resources? But the piece that was missing there, I promise I'm getting to the customer experience part, is I would do this incredible job of just seeing, okay, I think this organization works really well with this business. You guys share the same values. I want you to work together, cross-promote each other. Maybe a part of your sales go to this organization, and then maybe this nonprofit organization, you just, promote or put their logo up and just kind of let it happen. But then they dropped the ball on the other end of it. So they got this great collaboration going. And let's just say the organization was raising funds. They never thanked the people that were donating. And to me, that's customer experience. So it's like these people were all excited, like, oh, yeah, I saved these cats. We'll just use me as an example. I saved these cats, and it was cool to see that business included. I'm going to follow that business on social now because I like what they're doing. But neither one of them were saying, thank you for coming out. Thank you for the support. Or even just doing follow-up from like the marketing part is like, hey, we saw you at this event. Even though you didn't support us, we just want to say how cool it was that you were there. And that's where my brain started triggering, saying, well, if that's happening here in a collaboration with two organizations together, what's happening just on the business side? So then I started taking my own experiences into play, and I just started doing assessments. If I signed up for a program and I didn't get a welcome email, like little things like that. I didn't get a welcome email. Like, well, how excited are they to have me a part of their community if they didn't say, hi, welcome? So I hope that answers your question. That's where it started to come, as I started observing things, and just naturally my brain goes to what's missing. How can things be better? How can this experience be improved?
I love that. And, the article that is coming out in the magazine next. So for those of you, you're really going to want to read this article. She actually goes a little deeper into it. And I really, really love it. But some of these things we're talking about kind of sound a lot like growth marketing, right? And I'm all about growth marketing, right? And we really do want to grow. But how does that really play into the customer experience and journey? Because I know for me, when I choose causes, a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, well, I don't know, for marketing, oh, I should tie that to a cause. What cause would be best? No. I don't think that's it. It's like, what are you passionate about?
Exactly.
Like, I have three things. Well, I'm passionate about a lot of things, but I have three specific things that I'm super passionate about. And so really, it wasn't that hard to think about that. So how does that play into the customer experience?
So growth marketing, and it's funny because I know we always talk about struggles on your podcast too. I was struggling with articulating what I do for the longest time. And I don't know what it was, even though I'm a columnist for your magazine, which has the word marketing in it, even though I've had successful businesses in relationship marketing and network marketing, and just everything that I do is marketing, right? I could not put those two things together until I was actually looking at a course online. Like, I was just looking for new words to spruce up my website. And I started typing in the exact words of what I'm doing. and just growth marketing started popping up everywhere. So it's interesting that you asked me that. And I have to laugh because, we think that we have to come up with the next best thing, or we think that we have to do something super special. And once I started really digging into growth marketing, I'm like, holy crap, it's out there already. And I'm just really good at doing that. So with growth marketing, however, that's more based on, and you could tell me if you agree or not, I feel it's more based on like social and websites and SEO, like more in the digital space. And I try to take that digital space and connect it to the human space and vice versa. So it's all about attraction. Once you attract, are you retaining the customers? How are you retaining them? Are you seeing churn? Is it because they're overwhelmed with your services? I was guilty of that myself. I was doing so many things and offering so much. People are in decision fatigue right now. They don't want to have to tell you what they want. Your marketing and your interactions and your networking and everything that you do should be speaking for them.
Oh, I love that right there. That is so true, because I do agree with you. And I feel like, people are just falling back on what they think, or else they're jumping right now because they're still in, pivoting mode. And they're like, oh, this sounds good, or this sounds good. But the reality is there is nothing more important than your customer journey and the customer experience. And when you're talking about social, you have to be able to stop the scroll. You need to control the narrative. There's no doubt about that. You need to do that, but be very careful, because there are many roles, many places in the customer journey where people are when they're just becoming aware of you. Like you said, as important as a welcome in the beginning, to maybe they're really evaluating hiring you, right? And there's a lot of things that you can be doing along that customer journey that are really going to impact a lot, including your bottom line, right? So I think that is really important.
And
so
I really
Danielle,
go into that.
Go ahead.
I was just say I really go into that in more detail in the article. So as the year progressed, I intentionally, so it was actually very painful for me to stretch this over a year, because I've always wanted to just go and get everything out there, but I wanted to paint the picture and set the story for it, where yes, it starts with the community and connection piece. The whole purpose of getting so good at that is because when you get to the customer experience piece, there's little things. In that article, I go into more detail, but there's little things that you're doing that you may not even realize you're doing that are negatively impacting the customer experience. Something as little as, do they get a confirmation email? Like, I know I keep talking about emails. When they sign up, did they have to go to 4 different pages just to buy something? In which case people are like, oh, I'm not doing that right now. So I just want to emphasize how important it is that you look at these little things, because they make such a big impact.
And I think along the journey too, it gives you a lot of places to touch, right? A lot of touch points for people to realize that it is relationship based. It's not transactional. And I know that there right now is a lot of talk about AI, artificial intelligence, right? And I feel like there really is, from a marketing point of view, there is a place for that. Get your customers' questions answered very quickly. AI can do that. What are your hours? What time do you close when they're getting ready to drive over to your business, maybe, or something like that. AI is really, really good for that. But in business, people do business with people, not your logo, not your great messaging, or not even your marketing. They do business with people. So it is very, very important here. So I think it is probably one of the most important ones. But I have a question. So what would you, of course I have a question.
Just one?
What would you say that it can businesses benefit from focusing, maybe not focusing, but really thinking about what are the bad experiences in their business, or should they only focus on new clients moving forward? Because can digging up some of that stuff backfire? Or like you said early on, being transparent, can that really help? I think people want people to be vulnerable. And, sometimes on Yelp, right, people leave you a bad review, or can leave you a bad review. Ignoring it is not the thing to do.
No.
They know that people sometimes just are that type of person. It's what you do that actually matters. So what do you think? Focusing on just the good? Because I'm kind of thinking that sometimes it's really good to be vulnerable and share the other ones.
Yeah, I actually, when I do speaking, I actually talk about like a Band-Aid story. So I feel like everyone can relate to that, right? You have a Band-Aid on, it's been covering up a wound. The wound's not going away necessarily. It's going to take some time to heal. When you take that and you make it into the marketing side of things or the customer experience side of things, is if you just leave that bad review out there and don't do anything with it, it may not necessarily heal. But once you start, pulling that Band-Aid off, it's going to hurt a little bit when you take it off, but once it's off, let it heal. It's all out there in the open and it'll eventually get better. I apply that to my approach with the customer experience. You do want to dig into what's wrong. It's going to be really uncomfortable in the beginning, and you also want to take into consideration your employees or your team too. You don't want to just say, okay, we're going to uncover this one thing and ask all of our customers to give us feedback on an area, and then have it all come back as a rainstorm, and then your staff is a little bit overwhelmed, and then they're feeling deflated because they have to fix all these issues. I hate to keep using the word strategy, but it's all strategy. It's with a human connection. So I would pick one area to focus on first. I would look and see where are you either not converting customers or where are you losing customers the most, or talk to your team if you have a team. Find out who is calling in the most or emailing in the most or having the most issues, asking the most questions, and just start there. Start with one customer, because what's going to happen there is you can go right to that customer and say, hey, we notice you're having some issues. We want to make it better, versus, oh, well, they'll leave and we'll get a new customer, no big deal. I think that is the biggest mindset shift that people have to start having.
I think it is too. And I know for me, I have told some of my clients, one of the best ways to get data is to ask, right? That's the best way. They're going to tell you. Now, a lot of times you may think that if you go to someone specifically, they feel, or you feel like they will feel like put on, like now they have to gloss it and say all nice because, they have a relationship with you or they care about you, or they just don't want to say anything not nice, right? But I have to tell you, there's a hashtag that I use that nails this for me every time. And that hashtag is market research. I got to tell you, you can ask a question and call it market research and just say, I'm doing some market research. What are some of the things that really irk you when you're working with a bit? Like they will tell you, people will share, and then you don't have to necessarily. I think that what you're saying is really, really good, but here's another alternative.
Yeah, if what I said was too scary, you could just start more vague.
You could just start a little bit, get your toe out there. And especially if you're in like a Facebook group, so you're not actually as public, but you would only want to do it, in my opinion, so just for those of you who are thinking, oh yeah, I want to jump in with that. Do it in a group where it's very specific, not just a generalized, because otherwise it'll just become a rant. You really want it to be very specific and say exactly what you're looking for. I'm doing market research on this. What are the things that you love in your experience? What are the things not so much? And if you do that first, now you have specific things to ask when you actually go to your customers or past customers, or maybe you have some good relationships with somebody that you can ask, and now you can be super specific because they just told you, right? So it's kind of a good way to gather some information, a strategy, right? It's a good strategy. Yeah. Like to do it, but I love the way you do that, and I think it's really, really important. But one of the things that I noticed, now I know that I have got to read the article already because the magazine doesn't come out for a few weeks, but I've already read your article, and one of the things that I really honed in on that I thought was kind of unique is where you actually stated that the strategies that you're recommending actually will allow companies to charge more for their services. Because I think that's really interesting that you say that. Why do you think that is? Because don't you think that people are shopping for deals and savings now? And why do you think they're going to be willing to pay more?
So that was another interesting thing I uncovered with clients that I was working with, is we were looking to find out why they were struggling. And when I started working directly with their customers, because that's part of the service I do too, is that I can come in with that trust factor and I know how to talk to people. It's almost like the customer service experience brought into it, and just fact find and get information and then put that into terms for the business to understand. And what we were finding is that in their minds, because those little nuances that were slightly off, it was creating a bad experience. So in their head, like, well, I paid, I'll say something super cheap, $20 for this. And, it was more of a headache than it was worth. As soon as we went through and fixed those little corrections, amplified the experience just a tiny bit, that created such a trust and such like a relaxation around their service now moving forward that they were like, oh, yeah, this is so worth it. I don't have to worry about XYZ anymore because you're handling that for me. And I feel really special, and I really like seeing what you're doing out in the world. I'll pay $40 for that instantly. And when I first started to see this coming up in, the data, I'm a data person too. I was like, you know what? That makes sense. I'll use one of the examples for me is I have a lipstick that I love. I don't really wear makeup, but there's this one lipstick that I use. it's vegan, it's all natural. And like, yes, that's maybe not as important to some people, but to me, it's a woman-owned business. She puts it in a pretty box when I open it. It makes me feel special. And would I normally spend $25 on a lipstick? No, but for that I do. So it just like a light bulb went off for me, like, oh wow, this is a real thing. So people will rather have more money spent for a better experience before they start price shopping and looking for coupons. And honestly, a lot of the clients I've been working with, they are worried because in the beginning they might lose a couple customers, but think of it as a realignment. Were those really your ideal customers? You want to bless and release them. And if they come back, great. But if not, hopefully you did a good enough job that they're going to say positive things about your company, because that's the other part of what I do, is positive things about your company. So maybe if they don't stay as a customer, they're going to be your referral magnet, and it's all done in it feels so good. Sorry, I'm getting excited. It's a nice, natural, humanized way of doing business. And it takes time. It's a long-term strategy.
And I think it is really important because you know what? We all have, I always like to say everything's relevant, right? Because it's like in our mind, and everybody's is probably a little different. Like I have, like in my personal life, I have a price point in my head that I feel like this is the most amount I will pay for a pair of shoes. Now my price might be different than somebody else's, right? This is the most amount I'll pay for coaching, or this is the most I'll pay for whatever those things are. We all have a price based on the value that we put on that product or service, right? However, like what you're saying, when that experience changes, everything changes. This is the whole thing that goes back to something that people have been talking about for a long time. There's no right or wrong here, so I'm not saying that. But do you want to be the Walmart experience where people come in and you make your money in volume and you're like the most affordable, and that's what people expect from you? They get treated well, they get greeted at the door, that's the experience. Are you the Apple innovation? Like people know that they can expect that from you, and they know that you're going to say, oh, well, if you like this might be something that you would like. We've done based on your experiences, these might help you. Or are you the Nordstrom experience, right? And it's all about, oh, guess what? Even when I go into your restroom, I get treated so good. It's so beautiful and whatever. And the bottom line is those experiences every step of the way help your business. Because I got to tell you, even if you're not a Walmart shopper, right? Even if that isn't you. So, even if you're not, don't you just love the fact, though, that they employ some of our older senior citizens and give them a job to greet you? But that always makes me feel so good, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things that no matter where your price point is for your business, that you can add this value-based into your customer journey, which may be able to help you to increase your bottom line at the end. But the value is also that it costs more to find new clients than it does to retain the clients you have. I mean, that is just where it's at. So when you're thinking about it, how you make that money may not be exactly dollars and cents of somebody paying you. Could be, but it also could be in how you don't have to spend all this money trying to find new clients because you're retaining the clients because they love you. And then they're telling everybody about you. And now they're your raving fan, which also helps you, which also goes back to knowing how to network and collaborate, right, too. So everything that you do, really, honestly, to me, is like tying business up in a bow. So I got to tell you, Danielle, everyone should hire you. They should hire you to come look at their experiences, look at how they're doing business, and see, are there some tweaks in there that maybe they should do that could be costing them money that they don't know, right? Maybe they're not networking like they should. Maybe there's some collaborations they should. Maybe there's some data they need to change. But the reality is this is your area of expertise. And I have to tell you, when you can have somebody come in and just look at that, because when we look at our own business, we think, oh, yeah, right. We look through a different lens when we're looking at our own business than when somebody else can come in and say, you have a little gap here. And, if you just tweak this. So I have to tell you, changing the customer journey or experience, if you need to tweak that, is key. So can you share with us maybe just 2 or 3 little tweaks that you have seen people do, like little things that are like amazing that they made changes and they weren't really all that big? And then I really want to kind of go back to networking, because in the beginning, we, both being natural as other people say, networkers, what are a few little tips that you can give there for people if they're not really very good at that, or they don't feel like they're very good at that, where they can start this process on that level? So then we can pull them all together.
Okay, that's all. We can do that real quick.
Okay.
So I know I mentioned about how what I do not necessarily being focused on the digital space, but it's super important now. The biggest thing that I've seen, I actually went back through my client notes over the last few months, it's aligning their information online. So if you have something, let's say on your Facebook page that says you're open Monday through Friday, then on your Instagram it says, open on weekends, like I'm just throwing stuff out there. That immediately creates distrust and confusion. And even with who I am and how hard I want to champion for people, I've actually stopped going to businesses because, I'd plan my day around going to do whatever it was, and their hours are wrong, or they didn't necessarily update to tell us that, they had an emergency and it was closing. Like, people are fine with that. You just have to communicate it. Somebody shouldn't have to go all the way to your business to find out you're closed. That's the biggest thing that I've seen. A second one that's pretty quick is if you have email sequences, and it's on the techie side of it. So you'll have to have someone help you with that if it's not your forte. But sending duplicates of information, as well as when I was auditing some of the templates for another business, they actually were sending mixed information to their list. So it makes people feel unvalued. So let's say I bought your program A, and you're sending an email out that says, last chance, make sure to sign up for program A. In my mind, I'm feeling, well, I already am signed up for that, so I must not be that important to you if you don't even realize I'm already a customer of that service. So that's on the digital space. In real life, it is asking questions. So I actually did a shadow. I do that too. I shadowed a business where I just watched them observe with customers all day, seeing what they were doing. And the entire day, they didn't realize they were doing this because they were assuming, which is correct, customers are coming to them to find out information. And they were just talking at them. Try this new thing we have. It was a food establishment. Try this new food we have. You're going to love this special. Not once did they say, like, let's just say all the specials were chicken. So they're rattling off all these chicken specials. Not once did they say, do you like chicken? And if the customer said, no, I don't really like chicken. Okay, tell me what you like. Like, make it more of an experience and a conversation versus I'm a robot. Let me just rattle off this whole list. Once we tweaked that with their servers, huge difference. They started selling more specials because what was happening is people were tuning out. So I tried to give a couple different examples based on different types of businesses. I hope that was helpful.
Very. That was really, really helpful. Okay, so now let's take it back to, so now maybe you do one of those market research, or maybe you start asking a couple questions to your customers and they start sharing with you a few things, and you're thinking, wow, I really do want to make a few changes, right? So now you're in that mindset, right? And you're thinking, okay, so you decide that you're going to do it, right? Either you want to just tweak a few things yourself and try that first, or they, connect with you, follow everything that you do, and they're going to learn a whole lot more about this, or whether they just really realize that, you know what, I kind of prefer to work in my brilliance and hire other people to work in theirs. That's my forte, really. And it's what my personal belief is. And so whether somebody just says, you know what, this is too personal to me, I need somebody else to do it. And so they choose to hire you, which I think would be really great, or at least have a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just have a conversation about it. I think that is really important. But when they're thinking, you said something before about when you were talking about causes and collaborations and stuff together. When somebody is thinking about that, like I said, I'm passionate about a few things. What would be, I want somebody to walk away with this, because I'm thinking that when they heard you, they were probably thinking, oh, I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about this, and I'm passionate about this. What are some of the first questions they should ask themselves once they realize that there are some causes that they are passionate about? Like, what are some of the first questions they should ask themselves, in maybe what are some ways they could implement it in their business, or think about who would be a good collaboration partner?
Love this one. So when I speak about this, I actually get like a light bulbs. Like, I just see light bulbs going off when I'm talking to people, because when we're in business, especially if we're trying to increase sales and do all that businessy stuff, is you're immediately thinking, what's going to be the smartest or most strategic way to grow my business, right? I challenge people to not do that when it comes to connections because, yes, ultimately, like you spoke to before, it may not come back in an even exchange, but eventually business will come back to you. You want to go through and ask, where can you make the biggest impact? So I've personally tried partnering with organizations in the past just because they've asked me, and this is a little bit of the burnout and struggle that I had was deciding which areas to focus my attention in. But I'd say, yeah, I can help with that. And I had just no alignment to the organization. It was a great organization, but immediately you could just feel the energy shift was a little bit. I was a little uncomfortable trying to help them do what they were doing because I couldn't relate to what they were doing. It wasn't super successful. I got zero business from it. Switch gears and I look at things that I am passionate about and I want to help out with, like women's health, supporting small businesses, people struggling with grief, animal rescue. I know I mentioned cats before. People can see and feel the difference when I talk about those things. So even though I would love for everybody to say, don't forget about the little guy, make sure you support all the causes, you're actually doing a disservice by associating with things that just don't feel aligned for you. So a quick and easy way to be included is reach out to them. Say, I see you're doing some awesome stuff. How can I help? Don't assume that they just want money. Sometimes they just want bodies, or they just want awareness, or they just want to, have a spot to talk about their cause. So there's so many different ways that you can do it. And there's a strategy there too. That's why I love talking to people about that.
There's always a strategy. I think in every single thing we do, believe me, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a strategy. There's a strategy for everything. And I think a lot of times when people hear the word strategy, they actually think, oh, that means that you're selling or you're this. But I don't know about you, but even when you met your significant other, whoever that is, there was a strategy in place there too. There's a strategy in everything when you're getting your kids to put their dishes in the sink, pick up their car. I mean, there's a strategy for everything. That's a positive, right? It's just
how my brain works is I can just see things. Like you put a bunch of organizations and nonprofits and businesses, and I can even see like, okay, you two businesses should be going together. That could be a whole nother podcast. Maybe we'll talk about that another time.
I love
about
that.
How people that think that they're competitors or have to do it on their own or one up one another. There's really smart and awesome ways that two people in the same, vertical can work together and actually do really successful things.
You know what I have to tell you, Danielle, I notice that all the time, like even on my own podcast, right? I mean, sometimes somebody will pitch me and they'll say, oh, Patty, I have a marketing company and I would love to come on your podcast and talk about how they should hire me to do their marketing. And I'm like, did you even look at what I do? And then there's other people who will say, you know what, Patty, I know you're in marketing, but you know what? I really have found really great success in this. And I think a great, podcast would be, let's talk about this. And then they give me a perspective or an insight or a slant of a story they'd like to talk about. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that because my audience needs to hear about that. And if that is their expertise, great, they should hire them for that, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't even believe in competition, really. I really believe it's really all about integrity and stuff. But I do really, really love that. And I think people should not be so afraid of that. I actually really feel sometimes when you're looking for collaboration partners, your so-called competitors are where you should be looking first.
Yeah.
Right. Because they have the same audience as you.
And another tip there, you just nailed it. So I feel like our brains are super in sync this morning. Is when you're reaching out to them, even if it's just not about doing a true collaboration, look at their audience, look at what they do and see where you can help fill in the gaps. So if you have like a giveaway or an article or a couple of tips or quick sheets, say, hey, I noticed your audience is XYZ. I have the same audience. My audience has found this very beneficial. You're welcome to share it too. And then that also helps, back to the strategy side, if they put it on their website, you're now helping drive traffic back to you. So you're not necessarily trying to sell them, but it's just a way to make all the information go around.
No, I love that. And it works so well. So I have to tell you, Danielle, thank you so much for being here. You did come bearing a gift too. So I think that we just kind of segued right into gifts and stuff though, but you have this really amazing gift. So why don't you tell my audience about it?
Sure. So we talked about a lot of information today, and there's just so many different directions we can go on these topics. We could probably do 10 more hours. And what I wanted to do is make things simple for people and focus on just 3 areas. And what I want you to be able to do is find at least 3 things in your blind spot that might be causing you to lose customers. So I did a write-up on that. It's up on my website. I know it's going to be in the show notes as well. And it's going to dive a little bit into, so I almost don't want to give it all away. I'll give you one. How's that? So we talked about customer experience. So I think that's a safe one to talk about, right? Because it actually goes into the fact that A lot of businesses think that they are, I'll use the kids' term today, on point when it comes to their customer experience. And a lot of the research I've gone through is that they've said at least 80% of businesses think, you know what, my customer experience is awesome. I'm not going to dedicate any time or resources or money to that. But when they actually took that same information and took another poll with customers, only 8% felt that they received services that had an awesome customer experience. There's a huge gap there. So that's just one of the tips. And if you want to read the other two, those are part of my freebie.
I love it. Thank you so much for that gift. And I know this information was so great. They're going to want to connect with you. What is the best way for them to do that?
I would say the best way is my website. So if you go to daniellewoolley.com, or you can also go to morebetterbusiness.net.
Oh, perfect. And we will have those links in the show notes. So just look below. We will actually have those. So this is the part of the show, one of my favorite parts, where this is the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. And we invite our guests, we kind of pass the mic. This is #OpenMic, where we ask them to share. You've already shared so much, but we ask you to share your number one marketing, media, and money strategy. So I'm handing the mic to you. Danielle, please share with us what you would consider your number one strategy.
Absolutely. And you might have gotten this from our conversation today, but you need to be open to collaborative opportunities. You want to partner with members of your network so that you can reach more customers that you're seeking to serve. You can do that through being a guest contributor. I talked a little bit about how you might want to contribute to a blog or a podcast like we're doing today, offer to be on someone's show, be a part of their community meetings. And in this way, it's sharing your services with their audience, but it's also adding value to their lives so that they're proactively wanting to reach back out to you. If you offer that free resource that I talked about before that aligns with someone else's community, you're also pre-qualifying people that might want to work with you. And by building those relationships and by leveraging those collaborations and partnerships, it's going to lead to more people learning about you that will get to know you, and the whole process will start where they're going to want to do business with you.
That is fabulous. Thank you so much for being so generous with sharing your brilliance. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and share about something that I really think most people don't think about.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you. And while we're thanking, I would like to thank our sponsor. The Marketing, Media, Money podcast and our magazine are sponsored by the Exacta Corporation, founder of the corporate organizer More Than a CRM and the award-winning Family Organizer Plus. One busy life, two easy apps. Learn more at exactacorp.com. And thank you for everyone for joining us on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, and I am sure you did, please subscribe and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be here again next week. Make sure to tune in. And you know what? I'm hoping that you're going to take just a few things. Just take away a few things. And I'd love to know which thing is the thing that you want to implement. So reach out. My inbox is always open. Let us know, what are you doing to improve your customer experience? So thank you so much. Have a phenomenal day.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.